The Spirit was telling us, not only should you not camp there, but you need to get moving.
We heard some thunder coming in, and we didn't know exactly what that was going to entail.
We'll get a monsoon, it'll come through, it'll be come and gone in 10 or 15 minutes. But this hung over the top of us, probably the biggest monsoon I've ever seen. We followed all the guidelines issued by the church and by the Boy Scouts of America, and we did, buddy system for hiking and things like that, but in the end, it wasn't enough. My name is Steve Thielen. I'm a rocket scientist, and I love the outdoors. I love adventures. I love camping and hiking. I love working with the Boy Scouts of America. In 2001, we had planned a trip into Havasupai, and I'd never even heard about it before, never been there. The falls, if you haven't seen them before, are gorgeous. They're as beautiful as Hawaii even. So we started doing our research probably a good 8 or 9 months ahead of the trip. You want to be able to plan things out. You want to know what you're doing. You want to work through the contingencies. You want to know what safety aspects you need to think about that ahead of time. It's a matter of researching where you're going, what you're doing, what are the requirements, what do the boys need to know, what training do the boys need before we even get there. Well, I think in planning the activity, we had done everything we could. We'd got onto the websites, we'd looked and searched, and we'd figured out what the weather was like, what the conditions were like there. And of course, we'd planned our food out and the equipment we needed. And we talked about the rigorousness of what it would take to do the hike and that kind of stuff. And we, of course, were certified. I'd been through the Scoutmaster fundamentals as well as the advanced training you need. So the preparation started there.
The hike down was about 2 miles down the cliff of the Grand Canyon on switchbacks, and then another 9 miles down into Havasupai. We started to set up camp, and we decided to sleep under the stars because it was such a nice night and it was warm that all we needed was a blanket. And then we saw a bunch of lightning flashes rolling in. We could hear the thunder, but we couldn't tell where exactly it was because we were deep in the canyon. And then it started to rain. It rained so hard that I remember falling asleep in a tube tent with my dad, holding the edges of the tent up so the water wouldn't roll in. The river actually rose on both sides of us, but luckily our camp was high enough that it didn't really affect us. The next morning when we woke up, we decided that we should probably start to hike out.
So the plan was to hike 8.5 miles and then hike up the rest of the way early in the morning before it got very warm, and then to drive home, which was about a 6 or 8 hour drive.
And as we were hiking out, a family of the local natives passed us by, and I remember talking to them. They had 2 little kids with them and a baby. We also encountered another scout troop that was hiking in, and we told them our experience the night before, and then we kept going.
So as we're hiking up through the canyon, the sun's going down, it's starting to get dark, and there are some rumblings and some thunder on the horizon. We got up to where we were going to camp, and we gathered around, decided, should we really stay here or not? We had a little bit of an uneasy feeling.
And we were trying to decide whether we should keep going and find a camp at higher ground, or if we should leave altogether and get back to the parking lot. We all said a prayer, and I remember we stopped and waited for probably 20 seconds, and everybody was silent.
We paused for a minute, and it was, the Spirit was telling us, not only should you not camp there, but you need to get moving.
And then all at once, we all kind of looked up, and we knew that we should go, that we should get out of there, and we should get out of there soon. And right as we started walking, it started to rain again.
It must have been 4 or 5 inches an hour kind of a rate. It was just pouring on us. Quite often here in Arizona, we'll get a monsoon, it'll come through, it'll be come and gone in 10 or 15 minutes. But this hung over the top of us, and it was one of the biggest, probably the biggest monsoon I've ever seen.
The rains just dumped on us. We went from risking heat stroke to hypothermia in under 2 hours. I was the first one up to the top of the cliffs, and right as I got to the cars, the rains just unleashed. And then as a couple of the other varsity scouts came up, we huddled together to stay warm because at this time the temperature had dropped significantly. We didn't know what to do. We knew that there was a key hidden under one of the cars, but we didn't know where, and decided to say another prayer as soon as we were done. One of our friends came running up the canyon, and he was just shouting, "I know where the key is, I know where the key is." And
we got a couple of hotel rooms. We were able to get there. But we were able to get enough rooms so we could sack out, get some good sleep, and actually get dried out. Everybody was still soaking wet at this point.
We actually didn't hear about the destruction of the flood that swept through the night that we left the canyon until a few days later. That scout troop that we had passed, they told us that the flood that came through was like a 20-foot wall of water, and it just swept through the canyon. And I think the hardest part of that was to know that that family that we had seen and talked to, they were killed in that flood. And that's when we really realized the magnitude of that flood and how important that decision was for us to make. In order to be prepared, it's not just your pack, it's not being physically in shape and knowing where you're going, because that can change in any moment, but it's also being humble and open to listening to the Spirit and your guidance of your leaders. I felt very strongly that the Lord was helping me up those cliffs, and all the way until we were safe in the car. That's a feeling I will never forget.
Every one of them came back knowing that this was a special time, that it was not only a fun trip, we got to do some fun things, but also that we'd seen the hand of God in preserving us. So when I think about our experiences, I think about Nephi 3:7. And it came to pass that I, Nephi, said unto my father, I will go and do the things which the Lord hath commanded. For I know that the Lord giveth no commandments unto the children of men, save he shall prepare a way for them, that they may accomplish the thing which he hath commanded them. If it hadn't been for Heavenly Father providing the way, we might have lost one or two boys. But we got home safe and sound because he provided a way that I might accomplish the calling that I was given by the bishop. And I thank the Lord for that and his blessings on us.